Sponsored by
RKDF University.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, while addressing the India-China ongoing conflict, emphasized that restoration of normalcy in bilateral relations with Beijing lies in deploying troops to secure the borders first. During an interaction with the Indian diaspora in the Malaysian capital city, Kuala Lumpur, Jaishankar also underlined the issue of Palestinians being denied their homeland and the efforts being made by India to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
My first duty to Indians is to secure the border. I can never compromise on that. So we are today, we are still negotiating with the Chinese. I talk to my counterpart. We meet from time to time. Our military commanders negotiate with each other. But we are very clear that we had an agreement. There is a line of actual control. There is a tradition of not bringing troops to that line. Both of us have bases some distance away, which is our traditional deployment place. And we want that normalcy.
Jaishankar said that despite the ongoing boundary dispute, the two sides have built a substantial relationship wherein both sides have agreed to not bring soldiers in large numbers to the boundary and avoid violence and bloodshed. EM Jaishankar stated that deploying troops serves as a necessary condition for shaping the future relationship with Beijing. He underlined that his first duty towards Indians was to secure the border without any compromises.
Despite the boundary dispute, over the many years, we actually built up a substantial relationship because we agreed that while we will negotiate the boundary dispute, both of us will agree that we will not bring soldiers in large numbers to the boundary, and we will never have a situation where there will be violence and bloodshed on the boundary.
External Affairs Minister mentioned that the agreement broke in 2020 during the Galwan clashes when there was violence and bloodshed at the border.
Unfortunately, for reasons which are still not clear to us, these agreements were broken in 2020, and we actually had violence and bloodshed on the border.
It was after the violent confrontation in the Galwan Valley in June 2020 that relations between India and China sharply declined, while it also represented the most severe military confrontation between the two nations in over 40 years. On the other hand, speaking about the ongoing Israel-Ukraine conflict, EM stated that while the brutal attack by Hamas terrorists on Israel's soil on October 7 was terrorism, however, one cannot deny the underlying issue is that Palestinians have been denied their homelands while their rights have been stripped off. He noted that these actions might be justified by the countries in their minds, yet one's response cannot ignore the international humanitarian law.
On the one hand, what happened on October 7th was terrorism. On the other hand, nobody would countenance the deaths of innocent civilians. Countries may be justified, at least in their own minds, in responding. But you cannot have a response which does not, every response must take into account something called international humanitarian law.
While responding to a question on India's position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Jaishankar stated that the country has talked to Russians about the Ukraine issue very frankly and bluntly. He added that India's position has remained the same regarding both the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Israel-Gaza conflict, which is that a solution to the conflict cannot be reached on the battlefield.
Who have the opportunity to talk to the Russians very frankly and bluntly on this issue. On different aspects, others have used us to pass messages.
He also noted that various nations have used Indian diplomacy to pass their messages to Russia. For the unversed, the US admitted that PM Narendra Modi's diplomacy, communication and public declarations played a crucial role in preventing a nuclear crisis in the Russia-Ukraine war. During his two-day visit to Malaysia, Jaishankar met with the country's top leadership and reiterated India's commitment to further develop the bilateral enhanced strategic partnership with Malaysia.